Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I have several different things that I'm going to present to you today. Let me get started. The first thing that I wanted to show you, I just happened to be bumping around on different things this morning, and I ran across this video from Ripple from way back in 2014, and something is said in here that is significant, and I didn't remember hearing it. Remember, a part of what Brad Combs actually was the first one to come up with this idea that I remember, and that is the idea that the Ripple protocol would be donated to the world as a public good, and then it would thus be out of Ripple's hands, and it would be something donated to the world. And I think Love for Crypto has done a lot about this as well. I want to make sure I cover that. But this concept would all of a sudden make this completely out of Ripple's hands. I think the W3C is the World Wide Web Consortium, I believe, and that's where the internet protocol is, and that's where all these protocols are more or less designated as being something for the world. And I believe that's been the plan with Ripple all along. But this is the first clip here where I saw Chris Larson actually say it, or that I remember. So I wanted to play this clip. It's an interesting clip to see what Ripple, what they were thinking and what they were doing back in 2014.
The problem we have in the world today isn't that our payment systems are broken, it's that they're antiquated.
There are 2.5 billion people out there who don't have access to their financial system.
Settlement today requires third parties. There simply is no way for two institutions to reconcile their obligations without having to rely on a third party to arbitrate.
If you have a central operator, you can't construct that value exchange system on the fundamentals of the internet.
When the web was originally designed, one of the main goals that they had that they didn't achieve was to have a way to transfer value.
Ripple is an open source protocol that is designed to facilitate the settlement of funds in real time in any currency.
Having a standardized protocol allows financial institutions to instantly connect with anyone on the network.
Basically acts as an internet for value exchange. My name is Chris Larson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ripple Labs. Ripple Labs is the technology company that originally invented the Ripple protocol. The Ripple protocol now is open source. It's really a public good. Ripple Labs doesn't own it. Anybody can use it for free as they see fit, really like an HTTP for money. Our job is really just to continue to introduce new innovations that make the core more stable, more scalable, more secure, and importantly, bridges and connections to that core to make it easier for banks, financial institutions, market makers, developers, eventually anybody with an interest to integrate to that core system. That's a big task, and we think you need a phenomenal team of very, very smart, dedicated people working full-time on that protocol if this really is going to be an internet for value exchange.
When looking at the payment system today, it's comprised of a series of components that are designed to custody assets and transmit them around. So at the very top of the payment stack, we have application layers like PayPal, Stripe, Square, applications, technologies that interface with consumers and businesses looking to execute a transaction. Below that, we have banks, the institutions that custody the assets themselves. Moving below that, we start to look at the core interbank infrastructure, rule sets around business continuity, safety and soundness, regulatory compliance. Below that, we have messaging standards, so we can think about SWIFT codes, ACH payment messages, Visa messages. And finally, below that, we have a settlement infrastructure, which is operated primarily by the central banks domestically and correspondent banks internationally. So where Ripple fits today in the existing payment stack is at the bottom. I'm Patrick Griffin, Head of Business Development for Ripple Labs. Traditional funds transfers today effectively rely on intermediaries to coordinate settlement. So while payments can happen bilaterally, fund settlement has to move through a network of third-party intermediaries. What that creates is a system where payments can be lost and liquidity costs a lot more money.
Before joining Ripple Labs, I was working as a Bitcoin volunteer for 3 years, trying to get Bitcoin into the mainstream. And what attracted me to Ripple was just the amazing team that they put together. My name is Stefan Thomas, and I'm CTO at Ripple Labs. One big priority for us at Ripple Labs is to build APIs, which then allow financial institutions and developers to work together and build apps that are innovative and tie into the financial infrastructure. There are parallels between the internet of the 80s, where you had CompuServe and Genie and AOL as individual islands that are unfederated, and then the value web as it exists today, where you have individual payment networks like PayPal, Alipay, and M-Pesa, which also are not connected together yet. And so we think that the same thing will happen where these start to be interoperable through some common protocol.
All the progress we've seen over the last 20 years of the internet, now seeing that bleed into payment systems, transaction systems. So again, it's not that our systems are broken. They work. They're antiquated, and if you could take a step up now, get that analogy of value moving like information has been over the last 2 decades, opens up so many possibilities for existing businesses, the incumbents, their customers, and for the global economy.
Now you have the possibility to deliver real-time payment messages against real-time fund settlement on a good funds basis.
The web gave a lot of people access to information who didn't have it before, and we think the value web will give a lot of people access to the economy that they didn't have before.
This notion of an internet for value exchange, we think this is just great news for everybody.
So anyway, that's a great intro video. This is back in 2014, even before Brad Garlinghouse was at Ripple. But these guys knew what they were doing way back then. But I think that's for many, especially for many of you that are just getting your feet wet in this, to really understand how big their dreams were back then. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Bank XRP. This is on his YouTube channel, which you need to go subscribe to. He's got tons of content about Ripple and XRP. Now, I wanted to bring something to your attention. I had tweeted this out yesterday, and I think Sam I.M. gave a pretty good answer to it. This is from the XRP. I got this screen grab from the XRP Rich List. And I said, which shows on the XRP Rich List, it does not reflect the 50.3 billion XRP that's in escrow. And it says that the total coins outstanding is 99.99 billion XRP. And then CoinMarketCap shows 43.9 billion XRP that's in circulation. And so that makes 5.73 billion XRP that is missing. Now, Sam I.M., who's Green Eggs and Ham, also to the lifeboats on YouTube, he said Ripple has about 6 billion not in escrow that CoinMarketCap considers not circulating. So I'm just curious. He's probably right there. That sounds about right. And I'm curious what it is why it's out of escrow, because my understanding was that XRP every month comes out, like 1 billion comes out of escrow, and anything that's not sold goes right back in. So why is there that 5.73 billion out of escrow that's not being counted? Very interesting concept there. Okay. Also wanted to show this. I thought this was pretty interesting. Somebody said, "See you in Liechtenstein" to me. That's one of the things we say on this channel a lot. When this is all said and done, Liechtenstein seems like a nice place to go get together and have a drink to celebrate. But this is I can't remember her title for the Trump administration, but she said this yesterday at their press conference.
The only people who are over really 1 in 1,000 cases are people that have very small populations like Monaco and Liechtenstein. So
the current event is not affecting Liechtenstein the way it is other parts of the world. I thought that was kind of interesting that she used that particular country as an example. Now, Cryptopolis tweeted this out, and he is so right about this. A temporary world government. Nothing the government does is temporary. And he had tweeted this out. Former British Prime Minister Gordon Brown has called on world leaders to create a new order by forming a temporary global government to tackle the medical and economic crisis caused by that word that I can't say. And Cryptopolis is so right. That is a hilarious statement. They want a temporary global government. Temporary. Yeah, right. There's nothing temporary about anything the government does, especially when they're imposing new controls on the population. Okay, now I've talked in the last few weeks about BNY Mellon, and for whatever reason, I felt the need to revisit BNY Mellon because BNY Mellon to me is really at ground zero of just about everything. If you go all the way back to 2016 or so, BNY Mellon is a crucial part of what's going on with Ripple. And so the first, and I'm going to show you a couple of things I already showed you just to remind, as a reminder, and for those that haven't seen me talk about this. This is from November 14th, 2016, and it's an article from Ripple's Insights, BNY Mellon Reinventing Payments. And at the very end down here, it says, similarly, regulatory engagement will require the creation of rules and guidance to govern market participants as the technology evolves to serve the market. On the subject of standards, BNY Mellon points out that Ripple has made a major stride in providing a standard to enable payments across payment networks, interledger. While various organizations, this is from BNY Mellon, while various organizations and consortiums are working on a blockchain standards, for example, R3 Hyperledger as previously described, there is yet no true blockchain standard which also impedes progress. Ripple's interledger protocol aims to solve this challenge by enabling diverse ledgers to seamlessly interact with each other. Okay, so, I'm just trying to refresh your memory here. Remember, in 2016, SBI Holdings bought 10.5% of Ripple. All right, BNY Mellon is one of the largest. It's really the second largest American shareholder in SBI Holdings. Okay, that's just one link of many I could connect. Also, I could point to you that on PolySign, which a lot of people left Ripple to create PolySign, including two of the guys that started the XRP ledger, or David Schwartz didn't leave, but he's on the board at PolySign. They left to create PolySign, and one of the core figures on the PolySign board, I believe, is a guy from BNY Mellon. All right, so that's two links just right off the top of my head. And then I have shown you this as well. This is from the Wikipedia, and I showed you down here where back, let's see if I can find the section. It's right. Company culture. Let's go up to here. Right here. Post-merger history. And it goes on to tell you that in 2008, the U.S. Treasury named BNY Mellon the master custodian for the TARP, the bailouts from 2008. And they were I think they were the main bank that was trusted by the U.S. Treasury to handle this. Okay. So what I've always thought is, and I've told you that the financial crisis is what put all of this in motion. And I think BNY Mellon is one of the companies that was determined they were going to benefit from all of this in having this, creating this new system that would solve a lot of the problems that were really exposed in the financial crisis. So we know that they are, and we've seen all sorts of ties to the U.S. Treasury, and you're going to see some more today. All right. So I was looking around, just happened to be looking around, and on BNY Mellon, I just typed BNY Mellon in Ripple and saw something I had never seen before. I don't know if this has been put out to the public before, but Prashant Shrivastava, Global Payments Product Manager, BNY Mellon Treasury Services. He looks like has 8 to 18 years work experience in the field of banking, consulting, and fintech. He joined BNY Mellon in 2018 from Ripple, where he was leading implementation of Ripple's real-time cross-border payment solution in Asia Pacific. And then prior to that, he was with ANZ Banking Group and Westpac as well. So here's a direct, they get a guy from Ripple and they put him in charge of the global payment, or he's global payments product manager. Okay, so, and I don't think that I've seen that connection until now. I just happened to bump into that today. Well, what that reminded me of was when Brad Garlinghouse congratulated Kahina Van Dyke when she went to Standard Chartered recently, and he said, "We're glad you'll only be a node on the network away." So I'm here to tell you that BNY Mellon is going to be only a node on the network away as well. Okay. Now, I wanted to show you a couple of interesting videos out of BNY Mellon. One of them I showed you a little bit of before. I need to show it to you again because you need to understand where they're coming from. But here's a little intro video. And I wanted to show you this. It's only 1:22, but I wanted to show you this just so you can, because I think it'll bring together in your mind that by seeing a few pictures that look awfully familiar to what Ripple's been doing, these global network and all. Just watch this.
The future.
Well, hold on. Let me restart that, make sure we don't have a glitch.
The future. There are some who embrace it. There are some who thrive on it. There are others who shape it and create it. At BNY Mellon, we are those people. We are delivering an integrated set of solutions for highly complex financial issues. Our expertise and infrastructure make us critical to the evolving global markets. Strength, stability, and safety are at our core. We are investing wisely for the future to bolster growth, improve returns, and deepen client relationships. We always strive to provide a consistent high-quality experience and aim to deliver consistent performance for every client, every time, every day. BNY Mellon is a trusted advisor and business partner. We are committed to leading more, listening more, demanding more, delivering more. Moving with urgency and relentlessly positioning ourselves and our clients for tomorrow. The future is now. BNY Mellon.
Okay, so that's just one of their intro videos. Now, this is what I showed you. This is from the Sibos in 2016. This Tony Brady guy is going to talk about, and by the way, he's wearing a badge where you can see the Swift GPI logo on the badge. And he makes it very clear in this video that that BNY Mellon's strategy was going to be to figure out how to more or less hook up Swift GPI with some of these new technologies. It's very clear if you watch it from this perspective. Now let's watch this video and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm Tony Brady. I manage our global product management team within Treasury Services, which is part of the investment services part of BNY Mellon. I've been anxiously awaiting the Sibos because, as we talked about quite a bit in the white paper that we released on Monday, the Sibos theme for us is really all about payment transformation. It's a transformation that in some ways is long overdue, but I think we as global transaction banks are showing a level of collaboration now greater than ever before, really to address the fundamental issues that our clients have been experiencing for decades related to cross-border payments. So for us, this is a great opportunity to collaborate further, make sure that we're all aligned in terms of addressing these issues, and just to solidify our plans for 2017. There's certainly plenty of things going on and plenty of things changing. I would say that in general, all financial institutions, including BNY Mellon, of course, are challenged by staying on top of all the regulatory changes and making sure that we're in lockstep with our regulators and our internal risk and compliance partners. But I would say the bigger challenge is really wrestling with what I talked about before, which is we really want to change the focus from inside out to outside in. We want to do a much better job of providing a global real-time payment experience for our clients, addressing the issues that I mentioned earlier. You know, cross-border payments today, they're too slow, they're too expensive, and they lack transparency. And so BNY Mellon Treasury Services is very focused on providing a far better experience for our clients in cross-border payments. We can't do that alone, so we are very active in driving the product roadmap for the SWIFT GPI initiative, and that takes the network effect. It requires all of us, all the global transaction banks, to move together. And the good news is we're on the vision group for the SWIFT GPI initiative, and we had a series of meetings while we were here, and we're very much aligned. We all share a sense of urgency to address these issues. And so, you know, although it's a challenge, it's one that I think we as a global transaction banking community were up to the challenge, and we recommitted ourselves at this year's Sibos to continue to develop the products that our clients need. So we need now at BNY Mellon to do our part internally with our systems and our technology to implement the products that SWIFT GPI is coming up with, but we're absolutely committed to doing so.
Okay, I'm not going to show you the rest of this. I think that he pretty much made it clear there. Now, let's move along to this. This is from I Am Legion back on April 11th, 2019. He's asking Bob Way, who, for those of you that don't know, Bob Way is this guy who he was one of the first employees at Ripple. In fact, you saw him. He was in the video I played at the beginning of this video. But Bob Way showed up in the XRP community about a year ago, I think, and was very active and was answering all sorts of questions. Then he just disappeared. But I Am Legion was asking him this question: do you think SWIFT CLS is going to end up using XRP as a settlement mechanism like I do? I have 8 different sources and material. What would that would suggest that? Would love to hear your input on this, unless someone from Ripple or an NDA is preventing you. And then he goes on and he shows some of his evidence. Executive summary, Ripple payment protocol, and he's got, and I'm gonna try not to miss some of this. He's there. You can see the interaction here. Ripple is here, SWIFT is here. You've got, I think, that Standard Chartered's logo right there. Bank of America is in this slide. And then this one I can't see quite as well, but I think, I want to say I've seen this before in Ripple somewhere on that slide, but I'm not sure. Some of these you can see better than others. Ripple's right here, SWIFT GPI is right here. It shows them linked up in this particular slide as well. And then here, let me see if I can see it. SWIFT I see right here. And then there's Standard Chartered. Now we remember, we know, and here's Ripple right here. So we know that Standard Chartered is just a node away because Brad Garlinghouse told us, and Kahina Van Dyke just left Ripple to go there. Okay, just as a side note. All right, and then let's go down. Remember, this is a slide from Earthport. You got Ripple and you got SWIFT right there. Earthport, remember, is partnered with Ripple. Okay, we know that. And then here he's got another slide. This is that ATB Financial, Rice Bank. I remember a long time ago seeing a video early on with Rice Bank sending money via the Ripple network. And then here you've got another one, SwiftNet. You got Ripple, and it's like it's all been laid out to be entered. And granted, a lot of these things, it's not just you out there who are looking at some of these slides and saying, I don't know what all that means. I'm no different than you. I'm not a technical guy, but I can piece things together well enough to see the writing on the wall, and that's kind of what's good about. I think I Am Legion is a more technologically savvy guy, and he kind of puts all this together for us in an easy flow of diagrams and charts and things like that. And then this is Volanti. And you can see here on this slide, you've got API, Ripple, SWIFT, and through Volanti Technologies. I believe we've talked about them before as well. And then here, this is from Swift Institute, the future of correspondent banking cross-border payments. And then on this, you can see these are the contributors to the focus groups. And you can see here, Marcus Treacher and Ryan Zagone from Ripple. And then you had people from Swift as well. So all of these people are working together. There's someone from CLS, Bank of England. You can see all sorts of names here that you'd recognize. All right. And so I think that was, and then he's got here Swift, Hyperledger, Accenture, Swift, Swisscom. Swift selects Hyperledger Tech for cross-border blockchain tests. And remember, Hyperledger is on the chart that I keep showing you that shows the diagram of how all this goes down. Swift and Accenture outline a path to distributed ledger technology adoption within financial services. Remember, Accenture is an investor in Ripple. Accenture pops up all over the place. Swift to bring benefits of GPI to DLT and trade ecosystems. All right, so he has laid all this out, but then here you've got R3 launches universal settler application to facilitate global payments on Corda. XRP, the first settlement mechanism. And then he's got encourage fintech companies to build overlay services, new clearing model. Swift, Nostro accounts additionally as a part of V3 Stream. Swift launched the GPI Industry Challenge, encourage fintech companies to build overlay services leveraging the GPI platform. And then he's got another diagram here. I mean, he's really laid all this out. Now, after I saw all of his slides, I decided many of you have probably not seen these things. This first video I'm going to show you is from R3. It's Corda Settler Explained. And remember, when you watch this,
hello and welcome.
One second. When you watch this, Corda Settler XRP is the only digital currency, digital asset that is used on this platform right now. It was the first one. There will be others, but it's not a coincidence that XRP is the first. So watch this.
Welcome to the demonstration of Corda Settler, the open source Corda app built to help Corda users settle transactions on any rail. Transactions usually refer to an exchange of one asset for another. One leg of the transaction creates an obligation to complete the other leg. Corda Settler allows users to complete that second leg on any system, whether that's a non-blockchain rail, a cryptocurrency system, or on Corda directly. If the second leg is not on Corda, it just needs to provide two integration points. One for users to initiate payments, and another to confirm payment status. The following animation will show a network of participants using Corda Settler. Company A and Company B are the counterparties. They are using a notary service on Corda, and they both have access to nodes in other payment systems. For this demo, XRP is the chosen payments rail. This animation will be available as a click-through on r3.com. From a transaction on Corda, Company B has an obligation to pay Company A $100. As the beneficiary, Company A can choose the currency in which they'd like to be paid. In this case, Company A chooses XRP. To update the obligation, Company A will get the current exchange rate from an exchange rate oracle, and then update the obligation with the new currency and amount. Having made these changes, Company A obtains a signature from the notary service and distributes the obligation to Company B. Corda Settler also allows users to add additional terms, such as the desired payment address on the XRP network. Company A updates the obligation again and distributes it. Company B is now ready to settle this obligation, and so initiates a transaction from their XRP node. This obligation can be settled in one or many transactions. Company B gets a payment submission confirmation from the XRP network, updates the obligation with the transaction hash, and sends it to Company A and the settlement oracle. Now the settlement oracle knows which transaction reference to query for completion. The settlement oracle queries the XRP network for the status of transactions with the specified transaction ID. When Company B's payment has been confirmed, the settlement oracle marks the obligation settled, obtains a notary signature, and distributes the updated obligation to Company A and Company B. The obligation is now settled, and the counterparties have completed the second leg of their transaction. This has shown an important link between assets and applications on Corda and other settlement systems. We're excited to enable additional settlement rails over the next few months. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so you can see there how they've set that up to work using XRP. Well, they had another great video on their website, Swift GPI link and Corda Settler in action. And this is another interesting video that I was going to play for you just because you can just tell reading between the lines that all this is set up to be interlinked. So watch this.
Digital business is embracing distributed ledger technology, with spending on blockchain set to rise to $15.9 billion in 2023. R3's enterprise blockchain, Corda, integrated with the Swift GPI, is paving the way for a new era of secure, trackable, and transparent end-to-end payments. With Corda Settler, businesses using blockchain applications can agree how and when they will settle transactions before transactions occur. This reduces settlement risk and time to optimize working capital. Let's look at an invoice financing solution built by Corda app developer Intellect EU on Corda. With the shared view of the facts enabled by Corda and the transparency and speed of Swift GPI, transactions can be initiated and settled more effectively. Taiwan Towers has done a major deal with the European telco Euromobile for its 5G towers. To get paid early and help finance their operations, Taiwan Towers wants to sell the confirmed invoice on the marketplace. Factor Support in Singapore is in the business of buying invoices. This Corda application enables the two companies to transact directly. In the past, buyers and sellers would likely agree transaction terms out of system, with emails, phone calls, and payment processing all using different back-end systems. Accounts teams would have to contact the sending and receiving banks to track the payment. This means unnecessary risk, cost, and time in the payment process. What if Factor Support and Taiwan Towers could agree with one shared view of transaction terms and then process settlement directly via their preferred payment method? By combining Corda Settler and Swift GPI, they can. Let's see it in action.
I'm not going to go through the rest of that video. You can go to r3.com and see the rest of that video. But I just wanted to make you understand that they're intentionally trying to link Corda Settler with Swift GPI. And that's really the core of what I wanted to get across to you there. I don't begin to understand all the technicalities of how all these computer guys, how all this works and everything. What's important to me is that it's very obvious that they're intentionally linking up Swift with these new technologies. That's what's going on. Okay, now I want to go back to BNY Mellon because I'm not finished with BNY Mellon yet. This is their corporate governance, and I'm positive that I did not go through who some of their key people are, and it's very important. But I went back through some of them just so that I could show you who some of these people are. So, and I didn't cover all of them. Some of them I don't cover, but I found the ones that had interesting resumes. The first one is Jennifer Morgan. And the main thing that you need to be drawn to here is that she's an American technology executive. She is the co-chief executive officer at SAP. She became the first American woman ever appointed to the SAP executive board. And now she's on the board at BNY Mellon. That's a big deal. All right, now here's another one. Ms. Robinson. This is Elizabeth Robinson. She was managing director of the Goldman Sachs Group. Now, that's the main thing I wanted to show you here is that she's from Goldman Sachs, and basically Goldman Sachs is all involved in all this stuff too. Okay, now I'm going to get you to the two that are very interesting. These guys are on BNY Mellon's board. The first one is Jeffrey Goldstein. He's a United States economist who was Undersecretary of the Treasury for Domestic Finance from March 27, 2010 to 2011. That would be right after the financial crisis, also right around the time that Ripple was born. Read about 2011, 2012. I think I read today where David Schwartz said that he was hired by Jed McCaleb in 2011, I believe. But anyway, so this guy is, I mean, he's Ivy League, Princeton University. He worked at the Brookings Institution. I mean, the connections here with all the things we've been talking about are just, it's all over the place. He served as the bank's representative on the FSB, the FSF, the Financial Stability Forum, and on the IMF's Capital Markets Consultative Group, and chaired the bank's Pension Finance Committee. So this guy has links to the IMF as well. And then if you go down here, let's see, he's tied into all, right here. Secretary of Treasury Timothy Geithner awarded Goldstein with Alexander Hamilton Award. So he's got a tie to Timothy Geithner, and he's also on the Council on Foreign Relations. You name it, this guy's tied into everything we've been talking about. Now, I'm going to get to the most interesting character on the BNY Mellon board. His name is Edmund F. Ted Kelly. All right. He is the chief executive officer of Liberty Mutual Group. That's from 88 to 2011. Let's get down here. This is where it gets interesting. He is a member of the Bretton Woods Committee. That is a big deal, because let's remind you what the Bretton Woods Committee is. The Bretton Woods Committee is an American organization created in 1983 as a result of the agreement between the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Henry Fowler, and the U.S. Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Charles Walker, at the time a Democrat and Republican, respectively. The agreement they arrived upon was that the world leaders should express to the public the significance of international finance institutions like Bretton Woods institutions and how important it was for their prominence in the world to be maintained after 1944 Bretton Woods Conference. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank were established. They are often referred to as Bretton Woods institutions. The original goal of the committee was to improve the awareness of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, World Trade Organization, and other major development banks and their actions to accelerate economic growth, lessen poverty, and increase financial stability, along with demonstrating the importance of international economic cooperation and fostering collaboration among institutions. So this guy on the BNY Mellon board is a member of the Bretton Woods Committee. Well, I decided to go and look at their website. Here's the Bretton Woods Committee. Let's see if you recognize any people in any of these pictures. Oh, there's one, Christine Lagarde. And you got Christine Lagarde. I'm not sure who those two guys are. Then you've got these, and there's Secretary of State Steve N. Mnuchin. There you have Madam Pelosi, okay, who is the she's in Congress. I can't remember if she's in the, I think she's in the House, but anyway. And then there's the lady, I can't remember her name, but she's the head of the IMF now, and I can't remember his name either. But anyway, you recognize all these faces. Now, I went and I found a little clip. This is a clip from the Bretton Woods Committee and their the Bretton Woods Committee. This is a clip from one of their videos from 2016. So this would have been, but probably before anything would have been hatched having to do with Ripple or anything like that in conjunction with the IMF. But I wanted you to listen to what they said about the SDR. They're having a little conference here. Let's listen to what they say about the SDR.
The IMF to catalyze various markets around the world to invoice their global trade in SDRs. If the world price of oil were in SDRs, of copper, aluminum, other globally traded things were in SDRs, this would importantly increase the need for traders and central banks to hold more SDRs in order to facilitate the settlement of transactions in globally traded commodities priced in SDRs. So this is a relatively simple measure, easily undertaken under existing provisions of the articles, which would have a very important effect. But the biggest impediment to the role of the SDR arises from the way in which they are created, the so-called allocation mechanism. When the membership vote to have an additional creation of SDRs, a so-called allocation, they are sprinkled around the fund's membership in relation to member quotas in the IMF. There's a very ingenious, complex system that governs the use of them, given the fact that this method of creation can't possibly meet the demand directly, so there are administrative rules on how and when SDRs can be used, and so on. These really, while ingenious, stifle any serious development and growth of SDRs in global financial markets. What I have long proposed is that the creation of SDRs replace the allocation mechanism and all of its administrative controls and complexities with issuing them under currency board rules. This means that any central bank or anyone who wishes to have more SDRs buys them at the current market value of the SDR. This is how a currency board works, and they pay for them with one of the currencies in the basket. The underlying requirements of such a scheme are spelled out in papers that I have written, but this would transform the role of the SDR in one clean sweep through something like it basically is the substitution account that was discussed in the 70s. Virtually all existing reserves held by central banks and denominated in dollars largely and euros, I mean that's the majority of the reserves, could be swapped, substituted for SDRs, giving the dollar and euro, etc. assets to the issuer of these SDRs, presumably the IMF, as the asset backing for the SDRs that are thereby created and put on the books of the People's Bank of China and so on. So overnight, the SDR could become the overwhelmingly dominant reserve asset in the world, and with a currency board issue and redeeming mechanism to control the supply so that the supply is market determined and always matches the market's demand, I think the SDR system could be transformed and fulfill the objective that it was created for.
Okay. I thought that was a pretty darn interesting clip. Now I want to show you something interesting that was sent to me by XRP Waverider. Sent me this article. This is from Advisor Bid News. And I don't know when it was created, but this guy, Brandon Spotswood, CEO of Advisor Bid, wrote it. And this guy knocked it out of the park on this one. The global digital reserve currency and the future of financial services. And if you go through this, if you ever want to read something that really lays it out as to what Ripple and XRP represent, you need to go read this. And I'm going to read this one part to you. He says, I believe XRP to be the new one world ledger, or will be better known as the global reserve digital currency. Every central bank will have their own CBDC, and all their member banks and institutions will use the same ledger. Therefore, all transactions, individual, company, and company, and all values will be on the ledger, on one ledger. They're branded as on-demand liquidity and is the only tool I'm aware of available to the world's elite and central banks to bail out every industry and the global debt worldwide by the appreciation and mass adoption of XRP. We're quickly entering into a cashless society, and XRP is positioned perfectly as on-demand liquidity, inevitably to save everyone from this liquidity crisis. And you remember Chris Larson saying something similar to that. Great article. And I want to read this part also. Another way to explain it is that Ripple is to XRP as Exxon is to oil. Ripple and Exxon are the companies, and XRP and oil are the currencies / commodities. The whole world will inevitably use XRP, and Ripple will continue to raise money to increase the mass adoption of XRP worldwide. I couldn't agree with this guy more. All right. And finally, let's see, Michelle Vandenberg sent me this. We live in a truly absurd era. and this is a Wall Street Journal tweet. Breaking, a new bull market has begun. The Dow has rallied more than 20% since hitting a low 3 days ago, ending the shortest bear market ever. That must be the most idiotic tweet I've ever read in my entire life, folks. So here we are in the United States of America, and the entire country, our entire livelihoods have been shut down, completely put to a stop. I have friends that own restaurants who cannot go and open their restaurant to make a living. I know people who are dentists who cannot go and do their job under these circumstances and cannot. And you know what the worst part is that they've just passed this stimulus bill that gives people stimulus money if they make $75,000 or less. Well, you know what that does? You know what it does to the upper middle class? I know a lot of upper middle class. You know what it does to the upper middle class? They get nothing unless they own a small business. But let's say that you are a person who works for a company and you make $150,000 a year. Well, you're out of luck right now, because they're not going to send you a check for anything, is my understanding. And since you don't own a business, you're not getting the business stimulus, you are out of luck because you are one of the higher up people in a company that's owned by someone else. You're going to be penalized. This is a nightmare. I don't care what anybody says. This is a nightmare. And these people are out of their minds to act like this is the beginning of a new bull market just because we had 3 days of a bounce back in the stock market. We're in a disaster. People have no idea what the results of shutting off the entire, not just the U.S., but the world economically, and not letting people go to work for even a week or two. And they're talking about doing this for at least a month to 3 months. This is insane. All right. And then we've got this largest bank in South Korea to launch a cryptocurrency custodial service. You're going to see a lot of custodial services launch here in the next few weeks and months, because 2020 is the year of the digital asset, remember? Okay. Finally, I wanted to show you this tweet from Michael Arrington. Insiders in the gold business are explaining to me that there is currently no market clearing price for gold. This is a BFD. Over the past 2 days, more than one bank has failed to deliver on exchange for physical warrant. In Europe, large losses. For one, ABN AMRO leaving the gold business. The game of multiple bar ownership, rehypothecation is failing. Big scandal coming. COMEX default, LBMA default. It will depend on will of big money to stand for delivery, as well as strength of their political positions. When I read that, folks, what I read is you better own physical gold if you own gold. Finally, look, folks, this came out yesterday. Unemployment claims soared to 3.3 million last week. Now, folks, this is the most in history, and this is just the beginning of it. If you're losing your job, it's horrible that you're losing your job. You're going to have to roll your 401k somewhere. And what I've got in the description of all of my videos, if you want to roll part or all of your 401k into an iTrustCapital IRA, that's what I did, is open an iTrustCapital IRA. It allows you to buy XRP inside of your IRA. You don't have to roll all of your 401k there. You could if you wanted to, but you could roll part of it to somewhere like a Charles Schwab, and then roll part of it into an iTrustCapital IRA and be able to invest in these digital assets like XRP and Bitcoin. It's a huge opportunity for you if you're in a bad situation where you've lost your job. This could be, digital assets could very well end up being the thing that rights the ship financially for a lot of people out there that don't have other options. I'm the digital asset investor. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I have a coupon code where you can get 1 month free on the iTrustCapital IRA that's in the description of all my videos. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Tell your friends and family that unemployment claims have soared to 3.3 million in the last week, the most in history. Thank you for listening.